everyone, and welcome to Rebecca and Rebecca. I'm Rebecca Reed, coming to you from a snowing right now, Indiana. And here's my partner in books, Rebecca Yager from a snowy Texas, as if I'm right.
One of the rare things that is actually, yeah, we had like 3.5 inches of snow, which is rare for us, but doing okay. How are you doing? Everything okay in your world?
It's good, yeah. I'm happy to be. We got through it. Of course, we're recording this before it comes out, so we just finished our first week of back to school after the break, and so made it through that week. So I'm happy.
Well, we are excited because it's our favorite kind of show, and that's when we get to talk to authors.
Yes, it is, and we are really, really super excited to welcome Kelly Underwood to us to our show today. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi.
How's
Thank
it going in Florida?
It's cold, but I can't complain because everybody else has snow. So, but yeah, it's a little cold for us here.
It is.
Well, we'll warm everybody up with our excellent conversation about your writing and your how you got into writing and all the different things about your book. We're excited to read Guarding Truth, and Rebecca's going to read a little bio about to let our readers know a little bit more about you, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Kelly Underwood's favorite things are reading, writing, and drinking coffee. I like you, Kelly. She was born in New Hampshire, but don't ask her about snow because she's been a Florida girl since she was 12. Her debut novel with Sunrise Publishing gave Kelly the opportunity to work with Lynette Eason as her mentor and lead author. Defending Honor, part of the Elite Guardian series, was published in October of 2022. And it placed third in the romantic suspense category for the CELA Awards and recently was a finalist in the Carol Awards. She also writes book reviews for her blog, Best in Suspense, and is the 2024 president for the Central Florida chapter of American Christian Fiction Writers. She's a sucker for a good suspense novel, the kind you have to read cover to cover until the mystery is solved and the bad guys are in handcuffs. If you're looking for her, she's probably on her back patio with her golden retriever, a Kindle in one hand, and a cup of coffee in another. But I venture to say you're inside until this winter blast passes.
Yeah, the body is a little too cold.
So, well, very good. So, okay, I just read your bio, but is there anything in your bio that we should know about that's not there?
Anything that's missing from my bio?
Or what would surprise us to know about
Um,
you if you haven't put it in there? Anything like that.
what would surprise, what people love, to know is that I have a golden retriever. Her name's Maisie, and I'm training her to be a therapy dog. So I've been working the past 9 months getting her out and about classes. I'm putting it in my newsletter, and people love it when I put my, picture of Maisie and how she's doing in her classes. And she's passed all her tests. She's got like one more test to go, but it's been an interesting process. So she'll get to go. I'm keeping her. It's not like I'm training her for someone else, like a service dog, but so I'll get to take her to like nursing homes. We actually did a Make-A-Wish event and, kids got to pet her. And so she's just basically living to be petted. But I can't wait till we can take her out to some events and things. So that's kind of
Well,
fun.
that's awesome. My
Yeah.
mother was in a nursing home for a while, and they had therapy dogs come in, and it was the hit. Everybody was always like, when are the dogs coming back? When are the dogs coming back? So that'll be fantastic.
And I've never had a social dog before in my life. I've always had the ones that are like, I just want to sleep, leave me alone. So it's like I have to capitalize on that she loves people.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, my dog is antisocial. So
Yeah.
he would not be a good therapy dog. They would be like, nope, flunk that dog out of the program. She can't be a therapy dog.
But Ziva's very social here whenever you're trying to do this podcast, Rebecca. She would
She's
come say
social
hello.
online. She's an online social dog, but not an in-person social dog.
Funny.
Um, so did you always know you wanted to be a writer? Did you want to be anything else when you grew up?
I don't know. There was like a brief period in time where I wanted to be an astronaut until I realized how much math was involved. And then I was like, no, probably not. But I've always liked writing. And I honestly thought I was going to be a journalist. And I went to school for journalism. And then I wound up in insurance. So I didn't really stick with the journalism, but the writing always stuck with me. So yeah, I kind of in my head always wanted to be some kind of writer.
We like that. And you're a good one, actually.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's
okay, well,
interesting.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say it's interesting because I think that's something that's happened to several people that we've interviewed is they've started out and they've, thought they were going to go into some kind of writing, not fiction. It was always, journalism or I think, like um, writing for, companies and things like that. And it's, I think it's, a lot of people want to write fiction, but they're always told, oh, you can't make a living doing that. You can't make a living doing that. And so we're always like steered to a different path. So it's
It's
cool
like
that
Nick
you,
Sparks. It's like you'll never get paid if you're an artist, you know?
yeah, yeah. So I'm glad you were able to circle back around.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, to our benefit. So let's talk a little bit about your writing. How long does it take you to write a book? And you write romantic suspense, so there's got to be the romance and then a little bit of the mystery and the.
Yeah, so I work full time still. I'm still doing insurance. So I can do about a book a year. In my head I can do more, but in reality, just working full time, it's about one a year that I'm publishing. So but a year gives me a solid basis to plan and to plot and to write. And so it's been about a year.
So since you still work full time, then you've got to balance your writing schedule with your work schedule. So do you come home and write, or do you write just on weekends, or any time you get a break?
Well, I kind of am one of those people, I really like to sit down for large chunks of time and write. So usually my weekends, like maybe Saturday afternoons, Sunday afternoons, just go into a coffee shop and 3, 4 hours, just trying to get as much done as possible. I will, if I have a deadline, of course, be, working in the evenings and things like that. But I don't know. I don't do well when it's like 20 minutes here or there. Like I know a lot of people who do that. They're like, I'm picking up the kids from, school and they're riding in the car at any minute they can. But I tend to like the longer periods of uninterrupted time.
Dig into your story. To me, it's like once you get in the zone, then your 20 minutes are up.
Yep.
I
Mhm.
yeah, tend
That's
to agree with you there on that. So you have to do a little bit of research, I presume, with your books and like Guarding Truth, you've got two people in the military and things like that. What's the oddest piece of information that you've run across in your research? Has there been something that just totally surprised you, blew you out of the water?
Well, my Google searches are probably very like a variety of things that, if the government's spying on me, they'd be like, what is she doing? Um, but I I did my dad used to be a funeral director when I was growing up. So I had some questions about a dead body. So it was late one night and I was texting him and called him and had this discussion about like a dead body. So I thought that was really weird. But, I was like, hey, I have a resource, I can talk to my dad who, was a funeral director for many years. So I think that was kind of weird. Like just like it was normal, call my dad and ask questions about a dead body. It's kind of weird.
Was it interesting to grow up with your dad as a funeral director, as a kid saying, hey, my dad's.
Well, I lived in a funeral home when I was like 5 years old because in New Hampshire, like, because they wanted someone on call 24 hours, like they had like a little apartment up above. So we actually lived in the funeral home. So it was like normal to me. I didn't realize it was weird until I went to school and people were like, that's so crazy, like that your dad does that. And I had no idea. I just thought it was normal. But it started off my suspense journey, I can imagine,
Yeah, I can imagine too. As I can hear, you always hear those stories about, sneaking into the funeral home and being scared to death because somebody comes out of the coffin or
Oh,
something. It's like,
yeah, it does
Um,
have the element for sure.
with this series of book, this was book 3 of the Elite Guardians, Savannah. And again, Lynette Eason was kind of the mentor for this series of books, based on that. So how was it to collaborate, this is collaborative writing,
Yeah.
not just necessarily on your own. Is there any pieces of advice or anything you want to share?
It's just such an amazing opportunity because Lynette wrote this original series, which I read when it came out. I don't remember when it came out, like 2017, 2018, maybe somewhere in there. And so I remember the originals and I remember reading them and I remember loving them. And she was always my favorite author. So yeah, it's kind of like that dream come true of getting picked to write in her series. And like it's an honor too. Like she's like letting, trusting us to use her characters and dive into her story world. And just yeah, to get to know her and to have her as a mentor, it was amazing. And then the other authors like Sammy Abrams and Kate Angela, we all just kind of clicked. We even got to go to Savannah to do research. So we stayed like in an Airbnb and toured Savannah and just, like picked out, okay, here's where our office is going to be and just kind of got to collaborate and talk and hang out. It was really, really fun. So I made some great friends out of it. It was like just a great experience.
That sounds really fun to go actually on location, and like figure it all out. I think it's neat that you have expanded the Elite Guardians to other places. Is there any behind the scenes, like good information about, is it going to be more in Savannah? Is there going to be a different city? Are we planning anything beyond this series? Just curious.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything else about expanding this series. Um, but I am going to continue to write with Lynette in a different capacity. So I actually have a contract with Revell Publishing, and so I'm going to write a 3-book series with Lynette for Revell. So I'm kind of switching publishers a little bit. And so it's going to be an FBI series, and so it'll be a new concept. So it's not like one of her older concepts, but maybe like there might be some crossover characters or something like that, but it'll be a new concept. So I'm going to get to continue to write with Lynette. And so I'm very excited about that, like beyond excited about that. So that's kind of in the future. The first one won't come out until 2026. So we have some time because it
Okay.
takes me a year to write. So
Right. Well, that's good. Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. And you get to still use a lot of the things I'm sure that you learned if you're doing FBI. So it'll a lot of crossover between the bodyguards and all the law enforcement um, things that you've learned writing these two books then. Have you done any special research as far as law enforcement goes, or?
so I went to the Writers Police Academy a few years ago, and I thought that was an amazing experience. They take you to an actual like training facility. It was in Wisconsin, and you got to actually see where police officers were trained, and they kind of give you like mini training, and I thought that was really, really cool. I'm looking for ways to do something like that with FBI stuff. I haven't done
Mm,
anything, just kind of reaching out here and there. So that would be really cool to I know they have FBI academies in some cities. I don't see it in my city, but I think that would be really cool. But the law enforcement one, like I learned a lot. And my own local community too has a law enforcement one. And so it's just kind of interesting to, get to meet police officers and talk to them and kind of see the insides of some of the forensics and some of the things that they do on a day-to-day basis.
yeah, because I know zero about like the police procedures and police, all that stuff. So every time I look, I see somebody, that wants, authors to write in that kind of thing. I'm like, I'm just like, no. But I think it's fantastic. I mean, I think you guys have done a great job of, everything feels organic. It feels very well researched and nothing, there's nothing. I mean, I'm not a police officer, so obviously I don't know everything, but I mean, from my perspective as a reader, it's all of that seemed very plausible and very, well done.
Thank
So,
you. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of research that goes into it too. And, you know, a lot of rewrites when things aren't plausible. So it happens.
I bet. Well, let's dig in a little bit more into guarding truth here, into some of our favorite things. And when Rebecca and I did the review, we started off with the Ivy.
Oh,
We like side characters. I think we've got a thing for them here because they
yeah.
really can add such an extra dimension
yeah.
to the book. And of course, this story wouldn't be anything without Ivy. But we liked, and Rebecca, you spoke to this in the review, that you liked that Ivy's POV was in the book. It wasn't just
Yeah.
Juliet and Caleb's, that Ivy got a
Yeah.
save also, and that just added to it.
Yeah, I loved writing Ivy a lot. That was, yeah, I loved that part. Thinking like a
Cool.
20-year-old genius, you know? What would she say?
Yeah. What was the three POVs in the original plan, or did she sort of pop in and you're like, well, you have to have her POV, or how did that come about?
So my idea was, because I always want some sort of different angle or trope, and my idea was, what if a kid hired a bodyguard to protect someone she loved? Like that was the start of it. And so yeah, then it developed into, well, she really should have her POV because she's going to be an integral part. And so yeah, it kind of sprung from there.
Okay. Well, she definitely was memorable. And I think what I liked about having the POV is because she was so intelligent, so super smart. Without her POV, I don't think we would have understood how young she truly was because she didn't seem young, when you look at her from the outside. But when you heard her thoughts and heard what was going on in her head, that's when you got like, oh, she really is young and she doesn't have any experience. And it made it so much more believable, all of the things that happened to her then because of that. And I think without that, if we would just been looking in from the outside, it wouldn't have resonated nearly like it did, with her POV in there. So I thought that was really good.
I agree because at times I'm like, she sounds so naive, but then I'm like, she's 12, and so to taper that when she's brilliant, but yeah, she's naive. That's, kind of hard to come across. So I'm glad that worked. I'm really glad that
It,
worked.
yes, very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. And I also liked because it added her POV and then of course Caleb's POV and how they're building their relationship together as he's, fairly new to parenting her. And that they are, each trying to kind of protect each other and help each other, but yet that seemed to be a tug of war, even though they were going in the same direction. So to me, what I really liked about this was just there was added depth to these characters and to these situations, because Ivy was there and because getting to know her and Caleb, and then Juliet is coming in the past with Juliet and Caleb, and I enjoyed that.
But
Yeah, I think I liked how Caleb and Julia, how they worked together. Almost despite, how much they were attracted to each other, they still were able to maintain that ability to work well together and to kind of keep that professional boundary intact as much as possible, even though it was a romance in there and you could feel it and you could tell they still had that, were able to maintain that. And I thought that was really well done as well. I also thought you did a great job of throwing us off course with your red herrings. I don't think either one of us really figured it out right now.
who was the
I
bad guy, so to speak? No, you
yeah,
came
yeah,
closer.
we were both kind of. There was one time where I was like, but I didn't really go, yeah, for sure that's right, and so I thought that was fantastic. You did a great job with that. And it was really interesting too, learning about like the connection between Caleb's company and the bank and the security and how all of that fit together too. That was really interesting.
yeah, thanks. I have a friend who does some cybersecurity, so I am like kind of low tech doing this like high tech book, so that was a little nerve wracking. But I had some people who, kind of helped me, coach me a little bit, so it was kind of a lot of research in that part.
Yeah. Yeah. And
They
and
say
the
it's
group,
not what you know, it's who you know. So
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
well,
Mhm.
there's no way that we as authors are going to be able to know everything about all the things that we write about. And that old adage about write what you know, if we only wrote what we know, our books would be really boring.
I
I
write
feel
about
like,
insurance. No.
you want to write some big insurance scam book and make it,
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, The other thing I think Rebecca and I appreciated was the romance part. It is romantic suspense, so we got to talk a little bit about romance between Caleb and Juliet. And they had a past history, and they were close friends, and military stuff. But it was a slow burn all the way through the book. There wasn't this, need to know we're instantly in love. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was, but it slow burned building to the resolution.
Yeah, and they had a lot of past things to kind of like heal from between the two of them too. So I think that played into like it's not like let's rush into anything. Um yeah, and I also had like even in just writing, I just don't like books where it's like we meet on page one, we're in love, everything is great. Like I usually do have I usually do like the enemies to lovers. That's my favorite to write. But yeah, the slow burn is good.
Yeah, it was, and that was partly, the professionalism that they displayed that I mentioned earlier too. That really helped you kind of hold them apart a little bit. But you're right, they had a lot of things to heal. Once they got back together, they still between them had a lot of water rushing between them to kind of force them back to the other bank, so to speak. And so that was really played into it. And I liked, the history was really good. I liked that we saw that scene at the beginning too, that tells that history because sometimes authors will wait and tell some of that later, and that's fine, and it works a lot of times. But I think in this story, the fact that you had that up front was really helpful, because I don't think anybody would have been able to really get into their relationship as quickly if we hadn't had that scene, because they do maintain that professionalism for a long time. So it's nice to have seen the attraction before, and kind of then we understood why they were like, stay away from me kind of thing, like,
And that
so.
was Susan May Warren was like, your story doesn't start here. It starts 2 years prior. And I was like, oh. So I had to like rewrite that whole opening. And then when you rewrite your opening, the whole like everything kind of all you have to like edit the whole rest of it because it all's a little off pace. So I spent a lot of edits on that one, but that's the number one scene people always tell me they love is that opening. They're like, that really set the story. And I'm like, oh wow, for that kind of feedback, that's just amazing. And I do tend to start in the wrong place. So sometimes it's good to have someone be like, no, that's not where your story starts. So,
That's one of the hardest things, though,
yeah,
is knowing where the story starts, I feel like.
yeah, it's very true. It's very true.
I've heard that with many authors too, and sometimes your story doesn't start till chapter 3. So yours intrigued me what Susie told
Yeah.
you. No, yours starts earlier because usually we start too early and we need to
Yeah.
That's true.
dive in. So
Yeah.
all right, working on next, you've got an FBI series. So is your mind always churning with these crime? Do you look somewhere and see crime? Do you look or do you,
I
Or
do.
like possible crimes.
Yeah, I kind of see story ideas everywhere. Like I read articles or I don't know. I just play the what if game. I'm like, all right, I have an idea. What if this happens? What if this happens? And I can take a walk and kind of like think about stuff and start, churning out story ideas. I do have another book coming out next summer though in 2025. And that's with Sunrise, and that is Burning Truth is part of the Chasing Fire Alaska series.
Okay.
She just had the Montana Fire series, so this is kind of another spin-off where it's the hot shots and the smoke jumpers in Alaska. So that was completely different than bodyguards, and that was more research and just, I didn't get to go to Alaska, sadly, which I was like, oh, that's really where I need to
Yeah.
be. But I know a couple
Okay.
people in Alaska, so I was able to be like, hey, does this exist in Alaska? But it's a shorter one too, and that was a little bit more fun to write just because it's a quicker, like I think Guardian Truth was probably like 80,000 words. This was like 40, so a little bit shorter, but I can't wait till it comes out. So that'll be out in July of this year.
Which book did you write? Which number?
It was 4, I believe.
4. Okay.
4 or 5. Oh, I don't remember. I think it might be 5. I'm second to the last. So
Okay, yeah, 5 then. Because yeah, I think Susan wrote 4, right? Susie
yes.
wrote 4. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
And
5.
I heard there was some kind of mystery thread through the whole thing.
There is, yes.
And
Yep.
that's like how it was in the Chasing Fire
Yeah,
Montana.
like the Montana one. So yeah,
You're
that's
lucky
what I
enough to
heard.
have everyone, all the authors on for Montana on there, and they shared that the next series is coming out. So I'm glad you're going to be a part of it, because those are
Yeah.
fun books to read. You look for them all summer long.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Mhm.
And you do shorter. So that's the next one you have coming out. And what's the title of
It's called Burning Truth. Instead of
Burning
Guarding
Truth?
Truth, it's Burning Truth.
Well, you're in on, you've got a theme going.
Corner of,
Your
yeah.
guarding truth? Yeah, your burning truth.
Wow.
It's going to be truth and justice for FBI, maybe.
No, that's great. I need to write that down.
Yeah. There you
Okay,
go.
so
Come on this podcast, you get names for books too. So it's a free gift.
I'm the worst at naming books. I don't know why. I don't
They're
know.
hard. Titles are hard. Like some titles are hard, I guess. Some titles like just jump out at you and you're like, oh, that's it. And then other books are like, well, you try this and it's like, oh, that's not quite right. And you try this, it's like, oh, that's not quite right. And it's like sometimes you have to let somebody else name them, honestly. That seems to work better for
That does work better for me than, your publisher wants some ideas and I have them, but like, I don't think any of my ideas have ever come to fruition. It's just not.
yeah.
And my brother, I call him my chief naming officer because I'm not good at naming characters, but I'll be like, hey, I need this person, and I'll describe the character and he'll be like, oh, here's what the name is. And I'm like, that's really good. So he's my chief naming officer now.
Awesome. Well, everybody needs like a crew. You got to
Yes.
have people like to help out with various things. And so that's awesome. Everybody, it's good to have people around that are supportive and you can call like your dad and your brother. And, that's important. And I mean, that's something, for anybody who's a prospective writer, listening to this, like you really do need to find those people that, when you're like stuck, you can just call them up and say, all right, here's what I've got. What am I missing? Why is this not working? Right. And then they can kind of walk you through that and talk you through that. I'm sure you had, if, with the collaboration and everything, it was really nice to have Kate and Sammy to help kind of bounce ideas off of and all of that.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Because you can write yourself into a corner and be stuck, and somebody comes along and gives you one idea, and you're like, oh, that's brilliant, and that just kind of helps you out. So yeah. But it's nice
Right.
to know too that other writers are going through the same thing as you, and it's
Yeah.
a normal part of the process. We can
True.
all commiserate about edits. We can all, like because we've all been there.
Well,
Yes.
like with this collaborative writing with this series, you also have to take some of the characters, like in Sammy's book or Kate's book, and they usually make appearances in your book. So you still have to carry someone else's character into your world, or the world you're building there and the story you're
Be
building.
consistent, and yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
a lot of
that's
collaboration like that.
A lot. Yep, it is.
well, that's awesome. Well, we're going to look forward to the Chasing Chasing Fire Alaska. That's what it's called, right? Chasing Fire Alaska series. And of course, looking forward to you and Lynette's collaboration in the FBI series as well. That'll be fantastic. Is that each of you writing a book, or is there more than one?
It's going to be kind of the same way where I'll just write under her name with her, being the lead author and the mentor and kind of, writing in her style,
Okay. All right.
collaborating
Very
together.
good.
Yeah.
All right, but in July, and that'll be here before we know it. We're sitting here in
Yeah.
snow right now, but July will be here for
I know, isn't that crazy?
for Burning
Yeah.
Truth. So be on the lookout for that. And meanwhile, pick up Guarding Truth in the series. And in fact, read all three of them. Read Kate's book, read Sammy's book, just
Mhm.
the
Oh, good.
series. But book three, we had a good time with this. By the way, we did like these Star Trek references.
Yes.
But
And that Juliet didn't know the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek, and hilarious, especially if someone of my generation grew up
yeah,
with all that.
It was
I didn't
fun.
want to lose people, but I had to throw some Star Trek in there.
Loved it. Made it really, really fun. So again, pick up Guarding Truth by Kelly Underwood, part of the Elite Guardian Savannah series. Lynette Eason is the mentor lead author. This is really just a neat way to write books and give the authors a chance to work with people like Lynette, who's fabulous. All right, Kelly, give everyone your website address, and I presume you have a newsletter, and how everyone can stay connected with you to keep up to date on what you're doing.
Sure. I am, if you're on social media like Instagram, I'm in Best in Suspense, but I have a website, kellyunderwoodauthor.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. I do 2 a month, one's to have some book updates. I have some free books for the month, that you download, and so that'll be coming out shortly. And then just another one that's an update on life and my dog, who's now, decided she's gonna get into the picture here. She's right next to me. Like, it's time to play. But just, so I have 2 newsletters going out a month. So you can sign up for that at kellyunderwoodauthor.com.
Very
Right.
good.
Sounds great.
Keep an eye on social media for Best in Suspense as well.
Yep.
Which, yeah, she's quite good. All right, Rebecca, next month already, the end of March, we have a split time book by Michelle Shockley. And it's All We Thought We Knew. And I did have to read my notes because I keep messing up the title and I don't know why. All We Thought We Knew. So that's coming up next month. It'll be with Michelle, and you like it because there are horses in the book.
There are horses. It's on a horse farm in Tennessee, and it's fantastic. But it's interesting too because it's like split time with different, it's not a contemporary split time. So that's something to look forward to as well if you're a fan of historical fiction. This one is a dual time historical. So there's that.
But 20th century historical. So
it is newer historical, yes, indeed. So it's quite a different timeline than what I'm used to reading as far as split times. So it's really cool. But yeah, join us, and in the meantime, pick up Guarding Truth and all the other Elite Guardians Savannah books and read them. And then you'll want to go back and read the ones before as well because they're fantastic. And visit Kelly online at Best in Suspense and at kellyunderwoodauthor.com and sign up for a newsletter. And of course, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can get this on Spotify and other podcast sites as well. So we thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
take care.
Bye.